Hi, this is Jim Gibson. Thank you for joining me today on my channel. Really appreciate it. And today I want to talk to you about customers. How do you get customers? And how do you attract them? And what type of customers should you be looking for? Now, my background is that I have run an IT company for over 30 years, and a very successful IT company. I started with nothing. Sometimes people buy customers. You know, they buy another business, things like that, and that's fantastic. But today what I'm going to talk to you about is how to start with nothing. That's what I started with, nothing. And how I got to the point to where I got awards for sales from my suppliers, national awards from them. And I had well over 6,000 installations and thousands of customers. So how did I do it? First of all, a lot of people don't realize that you actually need customers. Customers are the most important thing in a business. A lot of times I hear people say, well, I'm going to start my business. And I say, fantastic. What is it? What do you plan to start? And do you have any customers? And they say, well, no, I don't have customers, but I'll get them eventually. I'll say, okay, so what's your definition of a customer? Do you know? You really should know what your definition is of a customer. What are you looking for? For me, I was looking for people that needed cabling. I started out with cabling, went later on to telephones, and then on to computer networks and things like that. But I started with cabling. And so I knew I had to have people who are interested in cabling buildings. But I joke with people sometimes. I say, well, what are you going to do? Get retired people to buy your product? Now, maybe you're in the business that you sell to retired people. That's absolutely fine. But for me as an IT person, I need to talk to people who need my cabling. So who do I talk to? What is my parameters? What does my customer look like? Do I have a clear definition of what my customer looks like? You should have a clear definition of what customer you're going after. I learned very quick that I need to go after customers that needed repeat business from me, because that was the easiest. I only had to sell them once, did not have to sell them multiple times. But yet when I first started, I was looking for pretty much anybody that would pay me to cable their commercial building. So I knew, one, commercial. Secondly, they had to be a company. Thirdly, I had to find the owner of that company so I could sell to that person. And I understood that they had to have a need. This is sales 101 type of stuff. But I tell you what I started. I figured, where are small businesses most likely, concentrated? And what I figured out, it's obvious. What I figured out was business parks. Now, I don't know what part of the country you're in. I imagine no matter where you go, you have these business parks. And these parks have these small suites, 2,000, 3,000 square feet suite with a nice front office, nice windows. Most of them have that. And they rent these suites. Rarely do they buy them, but they rent them. So I knew that was the case, and so what I did was I found a couple of those in my area, especially the newer ones. You really want the newer ones, the ones that just opened up. And so what I did was I went and I introduced myself to the rental company, to the company that would rent out, the leasing company. So I wanted to get them on my side. And so I learned a long time ago that you really have to treat the receptionist with a lot of respect and kindness and good things. And so I remember I walked through the door and I would introduce myself. I had business cards. You'd be surprised how many people in business do not have business cards. So I walked in there and I just started talking to the lady. I let her know up front that I was not there to rent any suites, but that I had a business where I could cable the suites. I was a licensed in the state of California, because you have to be when you do low voltage cabling. So I had a low voltage license. I could work as a commercial cabling in their facility. I would make sure that their facility was treated with respect, that I wasn't going to do anything crazy that would damage. And on top of that, I was not only licensed, but I also had insurance. And what I did was I also brought in a candy dish, usually one with a lid on it, clear You could see through it, things like that. You could buy these things, I don't know, at some of these companies, maybe even at Walmart, very inexpensively, a couple dollars. And I got Jelly Bellies. Now, I didn't use jelly beans. I wanted quality Jelly Bellies. Now, what I did was I took the lid and put it aside, and I put my business card inside so you could read it on the outside. And then I had a sticker that I put on the bottom, and it said, when this jar is empty, call this number and I will refill it for free. And so I filled it up with Jelly Bellies. I brought it to the place. I showed the lady. And I said, ma'am, if you have anybody that's moving in, if you could just give me that contact number, I will talk to that person and see if I can do their cabling. I will not do anything that makes you people look bad, and I will not do anything that damages your facilities. I will always be professional. And I said, so if it's okay, I'm going to leave this on your desk, and I'm going to see if you know anyone, and if they see it there and they're eating your Jelly Bellies, if you could point out what my company does. Now, I went a little bit further. I got a gift card to the local donut shop. I don't think Starbucks is around, but I would recommend that you go to get gift cards from Starbucks. $20, not a big deal. And you give it to that lady. And then what happens is people come in, they say, oh, I'm moving in. And this lady would say, hey, do you need cabling in that suite? Do you need later on it was, do you need a telephone system? Or something like that, or computer networking, or a computer service? And the person would say, yeah, I need this, I need that. I need someone to move my computer network and my printers and hook them up, make sure they all work fine. And she would give them my business cards, because I'd leave her maybe 10, 15 business cards. Now, I would get leads, and when I would get these leads, I would make sure that receptionist and those people working in that office would get a result from my success. So I would buy them something, a half dozen donuts on a Monday morning, something like that. It doesn't have to be large. It could just be a thing of candy, chocolate, nice quality chocolate, and just give it to them. Tell them how much you appreciate it, things like that. And what happens is you start to build that relationship with those people there. Now, because you left that little jar, and at the bottom it says, call me whenever you need refills, you don't wait to get called. What I would do is I would go out, and I would talk to the lady, and I'd say, ma'am, I'm just checking to see if you need some more Jelly Bellies. Don't be cheap, okay? This is your marketing plan. This is how you get customers. If you're cheap, these people won't even talk to you, won't even put your jar outside. Out on the counter there, so people could see it when they walk in. And I would come out and I'd say, oh, I was just checking to see if you need more Jelly Bellies. It looks like you're all full, or you're half full, or anything else. Is there anything I can do to help you guys? Let me get a couple of your business cards, because if I know people are moving or they're looking for a suite, I'll pass out your business cards also, because you've been so kind to me to refer me to this additional business. Now, this worked fantastic for me. This was great. I generated a lot of business in this, and it wasn't really even hard to do, wasn't very expensive, and it was working fantastic. And you know what happened? Desert Storm happened. And since I was a Marine Corps captain, I got activated for Desert Storm. And you know what happened to my business? I gave all these customers to a competitor. I took care of my customers. I made sure that they had someone there that could manage their system, that could work on their computers, that could work on their telephone system, and things like that. Did I get any money for that? No. I hope when I'd get back, they'd give me my customers back, but that didn't even happen. So I started all over again with this same concept, and it worked just as good as the first time. So that's the first stage in getting customers. Now, there's another stage, okay? Because you get a chance, and you get customers, and you're local and things like that, and people get to know you, and they refer you to their friends, their golfing buddies, things like that. And then you start to build and build and build. But you know something? These onesie-twosies type of jobs are kind of expensive when it comes to marketing. So what I did was I decided I need something that's national. I need something that I can communicate with a big company that has multiple locations, And I could manage their multiple locations, no matter where it is, anywhere in the United States, I can manage it. And therefore, all I need to do is just have contact with one person at the corporation in the IT staff. So now this is going to take a little bit of research. You got to find out who is the decision maker when it comes to the IT department and when it comes to cabling. And I would get in there and I would start talking to those people. Now, how did I get in there? Well, one thing I would do is I would talk to the IT people and I'd say, look, I'm a licensed low voltage contractor, and I said I would like to treat all your people to lunch. And if you allow me to treat all your people to lunch, I'll bring it out on the table and we'll do a brown bag, what I called a lunch and learn. So when I'm there, I will talk about low voltage cabling, I'll talk about networks, I'll talk about IP systems, I'll talk about how to do subnetting, things like that, anything that they were interested in. And I would go to that company and I would sit there and give them lunch and learns about once a month. And then eventually I would go to the person in charge and I would say, listen, could you allow us to give you a proposal? Send me the information and we can give you a quote on some installs. And I would price my installs insanely low, and I would make sure that I did it on time. I'd make sure it was absolutely neat. I'd make sure there would be no dirt on the floor. I would make sure all these things were taken care of so it really looked professional when I was done. And then I would follow up. There's that old saying, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? And of course everyone says, yeah, it does. I say, yeah, how do you know? Can you prove it? And so it's the same thing with when you do something good for a company, that you make sure they remember what you did to help them. Make sure they remembered that you're there to support them, to make them look good. The IT department, that's the them I am talking about. So that's what I would do. I do everything I can. Now, you got holidays. You have Easter, you have Christmas, you have 4th of July, Labor Day, things like that. They are all excuses for you to give gifts. Now, it doesn't have to be individual gifts, because that gets a little hairy if you start to giving out individual gifts. What you do, though, is you give out a group gift. You bring out a cheese platter on the week of Christmas, before Christmas. And, it has little stuff in there, Christmassy stuff, and you say, and you got a little note there. It says, thank you for your work. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate you. And so I would do things like that, and my business grew in leaps and bounds. Now, and I shouldn't say always. Most of the time it grew in leaps and bounds. A lot of times when I'm talking to people and they say, well, I'm going to start a business, and I say, well, fantastic. Who's your customer? Again, we discussed this at the beginning. Who's your customer? Give me a definition, a very good definition of your customer. Now, notice I started out with small business who had these suites, and I continue doing those because they are profitable, but I realized that the bigger companies, that if you could get your foot in the door with the bigger companies, you're going to do 1,000 times better. It's a lot easier just to have the repeat sale that comes in every month. That they're opening a new building in another town, and they would like you to do that cabling. Now, I know you're going to say, how do you do that? And I'm going to explain it on another video, because this video has gone too far, too long. And so I'm going to explain in another video how to take a local company and turn it into a national company. You need to learn that. Before you go, though, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe. And please refer this to anybody else in your company or other people that may be interested in this subject. Thank you for watching. You have a wonderful day.